So, given the fact that there's a lot of drama going on over at the Walt Disney Company throughout all of their divisions, it doesn't matter if it's Lucasfilm, Pixar, and even, of course, looking at Marvel Studios in certain circumstances. Well, what's interesting about all of this has a lot more to do with the upcoming Snow White 2025 film, one of the most drama-driven productions going on right now behind the scenes for the Walt Disney Company, for Bob Iger and the Disney executives, along with the board of directors. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. So as you all know, there's been a lot of back and forth drama going on between Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot, as well as the ongoing Snow White boycott via the general public, via even, of course, families or Disney, of course, fans that are rejecting this movie altogether. There's a lot of things going on simultaneously with Snow White, the live-action remake. Now, we've talked about this before in recent days, that there are reshoots on the horizon, and there's a lot of things going on between Gal and Rachel trying to figure out how the reshoots will be established. However, with that being said, there's also a lot of things going on right now with Bob Iger, as he goes into full-on damage control and double-down mode when it comes down to Snow White, the live-action remake, also known as Snow White 2025. Let's get into this, shall we? Now, given that Bob Iger is a liar, I always like to point this out, that's why I like to call him Bob Liger. He will say whatever he has to say to please the shareholders, to basically string them along into the following year until he plans to quit, step down, by 2026. However, with Bob Iger and the Disney board already going through numerous emergency meetings related to their division at the Walt Disney Company, one major development going on right now has more to do with Disney CEO Bob Iger and his response to both the Snow White backlash and the ongoing boycott from the general public, where he recently delivered the following. As CEO, it is my responsibility to showcase our support for our full lineup of our live-action remakes, based on our animated classics. One great example is our upcoming Snow White feature for 2025, that we are proud will focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. What we do not tolerate at all here at the Disney Company, and what we find to be truly offensive, are those that remain opposed to our support for DEI, and especially our support for the LGBTQ community. Our support for many communities are going to be seen, especially in Snow White. It's something that we are very excited about. After careful research via our Disney analysts, we have come to the conclusion that this so-called boycott of our latest Disney Snow White film is nothing more than a minority. However, their inflammatory comments are making it difficult for both newcomers and our loyal customer base falling into the belief that the Disney Company is about any kind of an agenda and or ideology, and that is just false and so far from the truth. We will never engage in any kind of a culture war, nor do we support any kind of an agenda that doesn't focus on a story and well-written characters. It is about time that we quiet down the noise from the loud minority of our customer base, and we believe it is necessary for the minority to remain silent with their inflammatory comments about Snow White, all because of our support for DEI, and focusing on a reimagining of the iconic tale from 1937. Our goal is to gravitate toward a wider, more global audience. The reception that we have received on our latest teaser trailer for Snow White was completely uncalled for and rude, and as CEO of this wonderful company that has been around for decades, it is our responsibility to keep the magic alive, especially with our support for DEI, to provide anybody a role in these amazing films and television programs for Disney Plus as well. Now guys, let me just say one thing right there real quick before I move on about the other, stuff that he's spewing about Snow White, is that he is literally lying again. If he was so much about DEI and including everybody into the equation of Snow White, basically this is where you have a lot of hypocritical moments coming out of Bob Iger. Why are there CGI dwarfs in Snow White 2025? Explain that, Bob Iger. because I think that that needs a full-on explaining to do, of course, by himself as a CEO. Now look, not only are we getting CGI dwarfs that are putting other people out of work that could have absolutely used a role in this movie, that could have definitely gained some level of a benefit out of a film like this at least, you're making it harder for actual people with dwarfism to actually have roles in the film industry. Disney's only making it harder, and that really goes against their so-called DEI, support, if you will. Now, interestingly enough, this is where things begin to go downhill, because we know that Bob Iger is in damage control mode. I mean, he's basically a flip-flopper many times, but we all know it's all a lie. There were many times where he said, oh, it's all about shifting away from the agenda, shifting away from any kind of an ideology, and now he is all about that. He is all about the ideology. He is all about the agenda, yet he says that DEI is not an agenda at the same exact time. Makes no sense. Moving onwards. He goes on to conclude, we have come to the realization that for films like Snow White that support our usage and representation, that you are always going to have what many like to call a toxic part of your following that only wants to create attention for themselves. We, however, are providing entertainment, not an ideology, not an agenda. Make no mistake, our support for diversity, equity, and inclusion has nothing to do with any sort of an agenda or ideology. Rather, it is simply a way for us here at the Disney Company to reach out to millions more globally to attract more customers to our exciting content that we hope to provide for the years to come to these different regions around the globe, and to also provide them roles. So basically what he's saying is that this is all about a money grab, is what it's really all about. It's all about that, and at the same exact time, he continuously lies and continuously says that DEI is not an agenda. It is purely a strategy to, basically, a marketing strategy is what he's saying, to widen their overall audience, to reach out to a wider global audience. And they basically want to race swap, gender swap different well-established characters. That's what it's all about, right? We've seen this time and time again. And that's what Bob Iger's all about. Now, this is exactly like I said before in the past. Once Bob Iger steps down in 2026, and I ran a recent poll about this on X, if you guys want to go ahead and check it out, whether or not the next CEO of Disney will be worse or better, I definitely do stand by my opinion that it's going to be a worse CEO that really endlessly supports DEI to no end. Now, we already know that there is a new DEI manager coming on board over at the Walt Disney Company that will actually be getting a $200,000 plus year salary, which is insane. And that is a very big telltale that there are no signs, that there are no, any kind of hints that they are backing down on their DEI agenda at all. And that is the biggest telltale right there. So overall, I would love to hear what everyone has to say about all of this drama going on with Snow White and Bob Iger's overall view of the boycott and the backlash. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.